8-bit joystick.
The IPS 8-bit Pocket HD V2 is the newest handheld Famicom clone system that can play real 8-bit Nintendo cartridges. It has a rechargeable battery via USB-C, a bright IPS screen, external controllers, and crisp HDMI output. It's basically an 8-bit Nintendo Switch, but with real Famicom cartridges. Columbus Circle is a Japanese company that makes new retro games, accessories, controllers, and systems. The IPS 8-bit Pocket V2 is the latest in a line of handheld system that plays real Famicom, Super Famicom, and Mega Drive cartridges. This version has a bunch of awesome improvements, and it only costs 16,000 yen, or about $106 US. I got mine at Surugaya for $112 with free shipping. This handheld is truly fantastic. It is designed to take 60-pin Nintendo Famicom cartridges. However, if you only play NES, then you need to check this out. This is the 72-pin to 60-pin adapter that's made by Columbus Circle's Chinese manufacturing partner, Retro Road. Since NES cartridges are about 80% empty plastic, playing them on this sucker is more comfortable than you would think. Companies have been making 8-bit NES on a chip systems for almost 2 decades now, and they're getting really good at it. Since the system is intended for the Japanese market, they went out of their way to ensure compatibility with almost all Famicom cartridges, including some that have been causing some problems in clone systems. There is no emulation or operating systems here. You just turn it on and it plays the cartridge. It is made with modern technology, but the game experience is straight out of the nostalgic Showa era. It has an 8-bit CPU and an IPS screen. Wrap your head around that. The system is shaped like a big ice cream bar. It is a curved rectangle with concave oval ends, and it feels pretty good in your hand. All of the weight is down with the battery towards the bottom, so it's evenly distributed. It is roughly the size of a large cell phone, but it's way thicker. It will definitely easily fit in a purse or a bag, but it would stick out a little bit in a shirt pocket. It's pocket-sized fun, if you got big pockets. On the front, there is a big rectangular IPS screen, but more on that later. On the left, there is an OK D-pad, and it has real membranes and a circular divot in the center, and it's pretty responsive. It's not the worst D-pad by far. On the right, there is rounded A and B buttons and turbo A and B buttons arranged in a Super Famicom PlayStation Cross. I would have preferred actual Famicom circular concave buttons arranged horizontally, but at least the A button is on the left and the B button is on the bottom, so it works. And then there is a bright LED power light that totally shines through the plastic. A start button on the right and select button on the left. On the top, there is a Famicom cartridge port with a spring-loaded flap, the power switch, a USB-C port for charging, and there's also a freaking full-size HDMI port. Not mini HDMI, freaking full-size HDMI, so you can use a regular cable, and that's awesome. And there's also a teeny tiny port for analog video if you really want to hook this up to a CRT. On the bottom, there's a volume wheel, and it actually goes all the way down, a headphone jack, and 2 Sega Genesis Atari-style connector ports. This is a really weird decision, and you can use the included external Super Nintendo-style controllers, but I really wish that they would have put an NES or AV Shinhatsubai Famicom controller ports on it instead. On the back, there's a pretty big, pretty loud mono speaker grill and the internal rechargeable battery compartment. Overall, it feels a lot more tight and better designed than past Columbus Circle systems that got a little janky at times. You can either play it off battery power or use a USB adapter. Previous Columbus Circle systems had a Japanese rated AC adapter, so I wholeheartedly endorse the switch to USB because I'm always a little concerned about Japanese voltage AC adapters being slightly overcooked by the American power grid. Now, it comes with a big round standard lithium-ion battery, 18650. So 3 cheers for them using a common modern industry standard battery instead of some proprietary dead end. I'm not certain how long the battery life is, but the website says about 6 hours. One weird quirk about it is that it shows a battery icon on the upper right side of the screen at all times when it's turned on, not when it's low. The only time that you don't see the battery is when it's hooked up to HDMI, but on USB power. Now, the big effing deal is a 16:9 IPS screen that looks gorgeous. Absolutely every NES and Famicom game was designed for a 4:3 aspect ratio. So there's a ratio switch on the bottom that you should set to 4:3 and forget about it. One of the interesting but questionable things about the Japanese retro gaming culture is that they are actually more likely to take a 4:3 aspect ratio game and play it stretched out at 16:9, but I'm not one to judge. The IPS screen is bright and crisp, and it has excellent viewing angles, and it is a huge upgrade from Columbus Circle's occasionally shabby backlit LCD screens on their prior systems. The IPS screen is such a major feature that it is foremost in the name of the product. Pixel artwork actually looks pretty damn good, and you can see the brim on Mario's hat and his mustache. And the blue sky in Super Mario Bros. Is pretty close to what you would expect to find on a CRT TV as far as color goes. It actually all comes across as pretty organic since it's coming from an analog video and being displayed on an LCD screen, but it's not the brutally sharp pixels of emulation. It's pretty good. Now, it is not running emulation. It's running clone hardware, so it's running at 100% and there is no dropped frames, no tearing, and it is deliciously retro. There is flicker and slowdown in places just like real hardware, since it sorta is real hardware, clone hardware, but it's still running an 8-bit CPU. It runs at basically the exact speed of original hardware. The other major feature of the system is the HDMI video output. There is a full-size HDMI port, and it is quite dope. The aspect ratio switch on the bottom controls the aspect ratio on the display and also the video output, and you can transition on the fly without having to restart the system. The colors come across visibly, and the image is clear with some of the best non-FPGA 8-bit Nintendo video via HDMI that I have seen, and that is the HD in the product name. The sound from NES on a chip clone systems have greatly improved over the years, and the sounds in Mario sound decent enough. There is full support for Famicom extended audio in carts such as Akumajo Densetsu, and it comes across perfectly. Expanded audio is really important to Japanese fans, and they delivered with a flawless victory. The speakers sound decent without distortion. The system comes with two Super Nintendo/Super Famicom style external controllers with cords that plug into the ports on the bottom, and they work. They're a passing grade, but it sort of feels like they retooled one of their existing Super Famicom clone lines. But this is a portable handheld system that you can dock using HDMI, USB-C, and plug in external controllers. The screen is big and bright enough that you can totally see the system between yourself and a friend and play some sweet two-player action. You got options. The Famicom compatibility is amazing. Almost every single Famicom cartridge that I own and I have tried has worked like a champ, but more on that later. All NES cartridges work as long as you use an adapter. I mean, excluding the ones that require a zapper and the power pad, but come on. So, being a clone system, occasionally there's a little differences with graphics and sound, but it's pretty damn impressive just how good systems on a chip systems have been getting at playing old Nintendo cartridges. Sadly, EverDrive N8 Fami or the EverDrive N8 NES do not work, and that's a shame. Typically, they only seem to work on systems made by Nintendo, FPGA systems, or they partially work on Hyperkin clones. Luckily, every single bootleg multi-cart that I've tried on it has worked like a champ. I especially get a lot of use out of the Ultimate Famicom Remix, which has a ton of NES games in English, but it's on a Famicom cartridge. However, I can only play one game that needs a saved game at a time. Having a decent multi-cart that works on it totally makes up for the lack of EverDrive support. So the Famicom Disk System RAM adapter does not physically fit into the drive slot. However, if you take a Famicom to NES adapter and then stick that in an NES to Famicom adapter, it works as an extension cord, and then you can connect the Famicom Disk System, but it still doesn't boot up a game, but it's a little discouraging. There are a handful of Konami Big Boy, bigger cartridges that do not physically fit inside the system. Interestingly enough, when I use my jerry-rigged Famicom to NES back to Famicom double adapters as an extender, they work. You know, for just being a little over $100, this is a very convincing package. Retro Road needs to update this thing for American use with a 72-pin connector. Personally, anyone who's into Nintendo Famicom cartridges totally needs to get it. I personally have over 300 Nintendo Famicom cartridges, so outside of retro video game nerds that live in Japan, it's pretty much made just for me. It was first released in September 2024, and you should order it new from Surugaya when they have one of their frequent free shipping promotions. The IPS 8-bit Pocket HD V2 is a pretty good option for someone who wants to get into the Famicom, since it's pretty much all you need to have both a portable system and a good time playing it on an LCD TV. I love the dichotomy of an 8-bit Famicom compatible video game system, but with modern technology. Sugoi! Hey, click that subscribe button and let YouTube know that you like this video by hitting that like button. Thanks for watching. This is 8-Bit Joystick. Stay awesome. Play retro.